Hello everyone, welcome back. My name is Mowmaster. Today we go over the long start guide to Botania part 2. This is the one that comes after the short guide, obviously, if you've been wondering. And this is the more long explained video. Yeah, words. I don't know how I can talk as fast as I do in those videos. Anyway, today I'm wearing the fancy eyebrows and the Botania capes. Cosmetic items, I love them. So nice. Anyway, let's go walk and talk a little bit. So, you've been generating a fair bit of mana. Honestly, this is a ridiculous amount. If you have about 25 of these End of Flames, you're doing pretty good. It might take a couple of days to kind of get progressed over to there, but with these guys, you can easily make your runes, which we're going to talk about next. What I'm currently using, I'm using a custom program called Mana. I actually use this for a lot of different things, and I customize it based on what I'm using in it. If we go edit Mana, it's a very simple program. Basically, you have an item or a chest or a barrel underneath of your turtle, which is full of fuel. It'll suck down whatever amount of fuel you want. It'll drop that amount of fuel upwards or whatever vicinity you want. This one's actually doing it twice with a K variable, just because we have more than 100 flowers at the time. And then it sleeps for a period of time. 400 seconds for coal blocks is not enough. I was just guesstimating, but apparently I was wrong, which is fine. It's all fun and games, because you gotta figure it out somehow. So, you will notice that I'm using 2 sets of spreaders. Now, how is this possible? I literally... flowers will actually go to the spreader that's closest to them, and when you stack flowers like this, if you stack the spreaders first and then the flowers will automatically connect to the spreaders on the same level that the flowers are on, which is just a really good tip for those of you who are stacking your flowers like this. We're also using the floating endo flames, which you may not know how to make them. It's an endo flame with a floating flower. Floating flowers are glimmering flowers, pasture seeds which we made last time, and dirt. Glimmering flowers are just glowstone and mystical flowers. So pretty simple stuff. And that's how I make floating ones, and they will float, which is nice. Thermal lilies, I think, are the most popular one to do this with, but I use endo flames because endo flames will actually pick coal up from up to 4 blocks away. So these guys are getting the coal from this turtle, which is pretty slick. So you can have one source of fuel and many flowers around it, which is very beneficial for the system. We are generating quite a bit of mana. I couldn't give you a number because I'd have to convert that to RF and then give you a number. And you're probably thinking, what, RF? Yeah, there's a mana flux, I think is what it's called. Mana flux, that sounds right. Yeah, mana flux field. And this guy is very helpful because you can actually give a number to mana with the mana flux field. So if we get energy cell of some sort, I don't know what energy cell we want to grab. Let's grab this one here. Sure, why not? We'll put that there, and we'll put this guy here. And we're generating a fair bit of mana. So, as you can see, just the mana we're producing per tick, the mana flux field will max out at 1300 a tick. So, you can kind of give it a number, but I think more than 5 mana spreaders per flux field is too much. But that's just giving a number to the amount of mana you're using, which is unnecessary because we have all these pools. So mana spreaders. The way I have this positioned is this spreader is connected to that pool, this one's connected to both pools, this one's connected to the pool it's next to, and these two are connected to one below them. You can actually put mana spreaders below pools as well. So I could have 2 more on here, but I'm lazy. It's fine though, it all connects to our runic altar, which has 2 recipes. One with a diamond, one with an ender pearl. Depending on which one you want to do, depends on what your resources you have at that time. Ender pearls, diamonds, whichever you're more abundant in, go with. I'm using an open crate to drop these. You could use turtles. In fact, I have a turtle program for this. I didn't set it up. I'll probably do a separate tutorial all over that program itself because it's a fairly large setup. But yeah, so you just kind of flick the lever, it drops the stuff on top. In the video, I did fire runes, which are fairly easy to make. Most runes of your basic runes are 3 mana steel, a gunpowder, another brick, and another warp. Mana steel, once again, is iron and a mana pool. And then you just hit it with your wands. Now you'll notice that as these guys give mana, you see this little blue bar start to fill up. And it actually does a circle. It's actually a full circle. And Vosky has used this multiple times. In fact, when you make potions, there's the same type of deal. With 5 spreaders, this goes really quick. In fact, my turtle program is only set up for 1 spreader, but if you, say, change it to 5 spreaders, the sleep cycle might be a little bit shorter, which is perfectly fine. You'll notice this nice lightning bolt in the sky. That indicates that you're ready to actually make the rune, and you can kind of time it out, but you throw this on top and you slap it with your wands, and basic runes will give you 3 runes per recipe. And when I say basic, I'm talking about, you know, your air, your earth, your fire, water runes. Those are your basic runes. Give you typically 3 runes per recipe. We have your seasonal runes. Spring, summer, fall, and winter runes will give you typically 1 rune. A lot of times these runes will require the lower tier ones. So if you can kind of automate lower tier ones, it's nice because then your higher tier ones are easier to craft. And so that's kind of the reason for the turtle program I made, was for this. The turtle program is on mowmasterlp.com, paste spins, and then look for, I think, rune tier 1 does these guys, rune tier 2 does these, and there is actually a photo of kind of how to set up the barrels, so that's kind of nice. Then you get into your 7 deadly sins and your mana rune. Mana rune requires 5 mana steel and some other stuff. Mana pearl, I think, 5 mana steel, I think is how you make mana rune. It only gives you 1 though, which is kind of a bummer. Then you have your 7 deadly sins runes, which typically require either seasonal runes and regular runes, and also 2 mana diamonds. So they're kind of expensive, but they're kind of necessary for certain things. I think the gluttony rune is fairly common in a lot of your recipes that eat things. Over here we have the Jaded Amaryllis. The Jaded Amaryllis is my favorite flower in this game. In fact, this is the first one I ever make. It does require a spring rune, which is fairly easy to craft, like I said. But the reason I get this is because I no longer have to go out into the world and find flowers. They're all here for me. Also, you make yourself a Hopper Hawk, which is, I mean, you don't have any eyes, so you can use this air rune. And then, of course, you take your horn from last time, do that, and the Hopper Hawk will shove all those flowers right into here. Now, Hopper Hawk will pick up items, I think, within 6 blocks from it. If you give it a mana pool nearby, it'll actually pick up within, I believe, 11 blocks away. So its range will increase based on the mana, if there's mana inside. This one, because of the mana pool down there, is actually getting mana, so it's picking up from quite a ways away, which is very nice. Very nice way to do things. In fact, if I just toss this junk on the floor, and he'll just eat it all up, which is fine and dandy. So, Hopper Hawk is very nice. Jaded Amaryllis is a must early game. Like I said, it's the first one I actually make as far as functional flora go. Next to the Hopper Hawk, of course. I've never actually made these in regular game mode, but I might have to now that I have this turtle program running. Basically, it's taking TNT and putting it on top of a redstone block, and the amount of these guys we have is actually enough that this can basically continue on forever. One will, I might have to bite my tongue on this, but one will empty by the time another one fills. So by the time it makes it all around the circle, you have like 2 or 3 of these guys that are ready to basically take another TNT. Like these guys are both ready to take a TNT. So as far as range goes, I'm not sure on range. I mean, this could be the longest, I don't actually know. Also with these, I placed these in rows. So the spreaders were down already. I placed these in rows. These all connected to that spreader. This row connected to that spreader because I placed the rows after I had placed the spreaders. So spreaders and rows placement, you can kind of mess around with it a little bit to learn, but it's good stuff. So I would definitely recommend either getting more endo flames before progressing, or getting some of these guys going, or there's all sorts of things. There's actually a flower, the Gormelius, I think, which eats food. That's also a very good one, because that can produce mana fairly quickly, but that once again requires runes as well. So runes are pretty much your next step before you get some super mana gen going. Otherwise, use a lot of endo flames, and you can get to this next part with little difficulty, really. It just takes time, is really what it is. And this is the Terra Steel. Terra Steel, As I said in the original video, is a wonderful, wonderful way to get extra hearts for fighting bosses. It gives you 10 extra hearts for wearing the full set. Then again, it is, you know, that's a lot of diamonds, a lot of iron, and a lot of ender pearls. So kind of expensive. And on mana-wise, I'm using Everlasting Guilty Pool, which is really cheating. Per Terra Steel ingot, you use up roughly 1/2 of a mana pool. Yeah, it's a little bit less, but pretty much you're using a 1/2 of a full mana pool per ingot, which is a lot. So one full pool make 2 ingots. I'm using sparks here because sparks will actually transmit. I can't actually pick it up with middle click. Interesting. Sparks will actually transmit from a pool to a plate or whatever faster, which is the benefit of using these guys. Actually, let me look up spark here. I have an idea. I want to test this out real quick. My idea is, can you put a spark over a altar? And I don't know for sure. Can I fill this up with how many things can go on here? A lot. You cannot put a spark on top of an altar. Myth proven. Alright. So, that's shucks. But for Terra Steel Agglomerate Plate, you can put sparks over it, and it will transmit mana from the pools to the spark and to the plate much, much, much faster than it will your regular mana pools. Now, or your regular mana spreaders, excuse me. Now, once you get to the Elven mana spreaders, that might be a different story, but just use sparks. They're so much faster than regular things. Speaking of Terra Steel, the agglomerate plate you need to make requires all your runes. So if you don't automate them, make sure you make one of each type of the basic rune and the mana rune, as you will need them for this guy here. Which, honestly, this is the longest progression for myself, starting off, because I never make these guys. I always make endo flames, and use endo flames, because you just make a tree farm, and whoop-de-doo, there you go. Hashtag stream from April 1st. Anyway, so now you have Terra Steel. 2 ingots of Terra Steel is all you actually need to move on. The reason I say that is because you need to make 2 mana pylons into nature pylons, I believe. Yeah, nature pylon, or natura pylon, whatever. So that takes 1 ingot. You get 2 of them per the recipe. And then your other ingot goes into making the core, which is this guy right here, which is actually what starts your portal. Otherwise, you just need glowstone and living wood, and you got a portal ready to go. Portals require mana constantly. Granted, it doesn't require as much mana to start it as it does to keep it going, but it still requires a bit of mana. So if you want to keep this cool portal going at all times, it's recommended you have a fairly decent supply of mana going to it at all times as well. As far as endo flames go, it will chew through, I think, 5 endo flames per one. Actually, 4 endo flames per one is about sufficient to keep it going constantly, roughly. I could be a little bit off on that, but it takes a bit of mana, just a little bit of mana to keep it going. And I talked fairly quickly in the video about what these make. You'll notice something, that there's 32 here and about 53 here. The reason that is because for Mana Steel, you throw this in the portal to get to trade with the elves, so to speak. You throw it in the portal. Oh, I threw it out of my inventory, didn't I? You throw 2 ingots in, and you'll notice you only get 1 ingot of Elementium. It's a 2-to-1 ratio, so it's kind of a dirty deal, but it's Elementium, and you can use it to make the mana spreaders. You can use it to make another armor set, which is recommended for the boss fights for next time, and some other things. So there's, you know, some use to that. Dragonstone is mainly used, I think, for the Botania wands. It's a 1-to-1 ratio with the mana diamonds. Kind of expensive if you ask me, but they do look pretty, and they do make a block. I actually have a block for this. It looks really pretty. I think life hack. Oh, yeah, that's right, Lapida shards, but that's part of the boss fight for next time. So that's your Dragonstone. Mana pearls turn into pixie dust. This is super useful because to make the cake chimeras, you actually need pixie dust along with some higher tier rune, which is nice. Elf glass. If you make potion bottles out of this with the Botania has its own potion system. If you make bottles out of it, the flasks, as they are called, these are actually per recipe. You get 6 drinks per flask, versus I think the regular mana glass bottles only give you 4. So it's an additional 2 potions What's Alpha Glass? I want Mana Glass here. Hold on. So yeah, it's an additional 2 potions, you know, from this guy, but it's an additional 3 potions from just regular Minecraft potions. So that's a bargain, man. For what it is, it's a bargain. So highly recommended. The one thing you must get out of this, if anything, you must get this. That is turning living wood into dream wood. It's just a must. You have to do this. If you don't do this, creative mode. If you don't do this, you can't really progress very easily. I mean, you can. Don't get me wrong, you can, but not very easily. Dream wood is basically your next step towards your mana spreaders, which is your elven spreaders. These guys here, they spread much faster than regular mana spreaders do. Much more mana. Just do it. Just trust me on this, would you? That's all I'm asking. Just a little bit of your trust. So that is that. No, you cannot go into a new age. Vosky has stated multiple times he will not make a new age. I think the Afterthamic Tinker, that was enough for him. So we come along here. We've made pixie dust. We've made runes. We have Cakeamiris flowers, which is basically your late game mana production. Why do I say late game? Because if you're going to do it at this rate, you have to basically automate cake, because they will eat cakes like crazy. In fact, if you do a tower of these guys, by the way, these guys will pick up, I believe, from 5 blocks away. Is that right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Yeah, 5 blocks away. So they'll eat within 5 blocks. If you have a tower of these guys, 10 blocks tall, thinking that the cake is in the middle, and these will actually, like I said, pick up from 5 blocks. So I can have more layers on here even. The downside to this is you basically have to automate cake, because if you make a max size of one of these cubes, it'll eat through 46 cakes per second. That's calculated per second. Is it per second? It's ridiculous. Just trust me. It's effing ridiculous how fast they'll eat through cake. So if you don't have cake on autocraft, probably not a valid option. You probably want to stick with some of your other stuff, like your TNT guys, which are much easier to automate because TNT's, you know, sand and gunpowder. But cake is, like I said, your end game flower basically for mana production, and it produces tons of mana. If I were to convert this to an RF value, per se, endoflames per endoflame per charcoal produces about was it 16k RF per? Yeah, it's about 16k RF with the endoflame. The Cakeamiris produces about 32 to 36,000 RF. So we're talking 3 to 4 times more mana. No, 2 times more mana, excuse me. So it produces double with a piece of cake. With one cake, it will produce double the amount of mana as a piece of coal. So cost-wise, milk is pretty much free, eggs are pretty much free, flour, it's pretty much free. I mean, wheat flour, whatever, it's pretty much free. It's just the automation of the cake is the hard part. So I would personally do this. I will personally do this in the future, but I haven't gotten to it yet, other than just testing. So, mana. So, before next time, I won't warn the other guys that watch the quick start guide, but don't watch this one. Warn you for next time. You need a beacon for next episode. If you don't have a beacon, might have some issues. But don't worry. That's how you fight other bosses. So, like I said, next time we'll be talking about the bosses, the different bosses you can fight, and what you can get from those bosses, what items you can make from the boss drops, stuff like that. So, I don't know if I'll actually fight a boss, because it might take too long for the quick start guide, but we might do it here. Who knows? But like I said, this has been the long guide to Botania Part 2. Thank you for watching, folks. We will see you next time. Have a good day. Have a good night. Have a good afternoon. Boy, boy.